An exclusive XM presentation.
Jim Norton is about to get unmasked.
Unmasked. Truth in comedy.
To the inner soul of the comedic mind.
Unmasked on XM Satellite Radio.
Brought to you by BowDogLife.net. Playing poker has never been easier. Sign up for free today at BowDogLife.net.
Pay no attention to that man behind the curtain.
I remember my girlfriend and I were watching Oz, and she's like, "Do you think you'd be raped in prison?" I'd be raped in the bus on the way to prison. I was raped in Monopoly jail. You know, people are so obsessed. You know, don't get me sick, don't cough around me. You tell me you're OCD, and I'll walk right. Come here. Then I'll read off my sexual history and watch you panic and cry.
This is Unmasked with Jim Norton, an XM exclusive comedy presentation. Now, from XM's Performance Theater, here's host Ron Bennington.
All right. Welcome to Unmasked. I'm Ron Bennington. We are going to bring out a gentleman right now who you can hear on XM radio every single day on the Opie and Anthony Show. You can also pick up this new best-selling book. Happy Endings is the name of it. I hope everybody has already picked this up. It's something that you want to keep away from the children, but it's indeed a bestseller on the New York Times. He's got another HBO special coming up real soon. Put your hands together for Jim Norton. Jimmy. Welcome, buddy. Thank you. Thanks, now, the point here of Unmasked is to figure out what the comic is behind what the act is on stage. And I cannot imagine that there is a single secret that you have left at this point, because it's your act, it's in the book. Other than the fact that maybe you're with PETA, I would have no idea how you could shock the audience tonight.
Yeah, I mean, there's probably not much that they don't know already, just from listening to the show and from watching the act. I mean, it's pretty much mostly true. The stuff that people don't know is the boring stuff. Just like what a fucking emotional boob I am.
Right.
Me and my girlfriend were watching on Golden Pond, and I'm just weeping like a washwoman. Like that. It's like that type of stuff that people are like, ugh, we didn't want to know that. It's douche chill.
Why the complete honesty? When did that start, from the beginning of the stand-up career? Is it something that you got used to talking about?
I've always kind of, the guys I like the most were the honest comedians. I mean, you know, my favorite is Pryor, he's my idol, and he was honest. He talked about his mother being a prostitute, you know, and his father being abusive, and it's like the guys I've always loved did that. And I kind of always feel like there's so many hacks and so many like guys that are just doing the same shit. All I own is myself and my views on stuff. So if I'm not talking about myself, what the fuck am I doing up there? It's like I kind of like that anything I do is mine to talk about.
Right.
And I'm very lazy, and I really don't feel like, you know, doing observational political shit because it bores me. You know, it's fun for a week, and then it becomes old.
So everything, basically, that your main interest is you.
Well, yeah, let me rephrase that.
Yeah.
You know, Ron, when you have this to work with. No, I just feel like I'm always aware of what it is I'm doing, you know, and I just feel like it's fun to tell people, because I always feel good when I relate to somebody. Like when somebody says something that I do, I'm like, fuck, I do that. It makes me feel better. So when I confess things that I confess on stage, whether it's sexual in nature or desires to blow my brains out or whatever it is that everybody has from time to time, I kind of feel like there's something close about that with the audience, because I like hearing that from people.
And is that what they come and say to you later? Like, I don't tell people, but I know exactly how you feel.
Yeah, I've gotten emails about that, and people do say that. And the sexual stuff, the most, because that's like the most taboo. You know, and a lot of people can't talk about it, or they don't want to talk about it because they're married or whatever. But I think a lot of times they like hearing the honesty of that.
Well, that's kind of interesting, too, because when you go I know this for a fact. I meet people who listen to XM all the time. And I will meet women and I'll go, they're going to ask me about Jimmy. Women will say, tell me about Jimmy Norton. Is it real? Is this an act? It seems to almost attract women to you.
Well, it weeds out all non-hackers who do not pack the gear to serve in our beloved corps. You know,
you will come off stage and you'll meet a lot of those girls who want to, like, take the Jimmy Norton experience.
Well, the majority of women aren't attracted to what I do. It's just the ones that are know what they're in for. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like if there's 50 women, maybe 3 will like me, but all 3 of those have a full bladder.
Right. They're all gamers.
Yeah. They're what we call good eggs.
And going into this from your book, the sexual addiction stuff, very, very early. Very, very young.
2nd grade, I can remember. This is true, man. I didn't have intercourse till I was 18. The first time I fucked a girl, I was half drunk. I was one of those white black kids before it was fashionable, and I had like on a furry Bell burgundy Kango. I mean, just an asshole. Really was awful. And I had sex with this girl, Michelle, I was dating. But my sexual behavior started with like, and I've talked so many times about Monster Rain, but me and my little buddies blowing each other under a porch in Edison, New Jersey. And I counted 10 sexual partners before I moved to North Brunswick. And I moved to North Brunswick Halloween of 4th grade. So anything that happened in Edison happened before Halloween of 4th grade. I had a brother and sister, 2 friends of mine. One was a year older than the other. And I used to like the smell of piss. And both of them would piss their pants all the time. I don't know what was happening in that household, but neither one of them was properly trained to use a toilet. So I would lay behind the bushes, and I would get either him or his sister to sit on my face so I could smell the piss through their clothing. Healthy. But true.
And, yeah. I mean, I understand being a little kid playing doctor, but Oh,
yeah, no, it was
urologist, I guess, for you. I mean, it went in a whole other. I mean, have you ever once thought, I need to talk to somebody about this, or are you worried it'll fuck up the act?
Oh, no, I'm in therapy now.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no, I don't. The only thing that I'm afraid of is, and I won't do, is medication. That scares me because I'm afraid of fucking with my mind at all like that, just because, but the sexual addiction, Colin Quinn said something to Nick DiPaolo one time, because to me they're both absolutely brilliant comedians. But he said, Nick, you're so angry, sometimes that blocks your creativity. And, and Colin, like, saying that made me think, like, my sexual stuff will block my creativity because it's an escape. You know what I mean? It's like anything else you do. It's like smoking dope or fucking drinking. I mean, it's just a way to like, zone out and completely, like, just be devoid of any real emotion or feelings. And I think if I put any effort into writing like I did into sexual addiction, I'd be a lot more productive and a lot more in touch with what's going on. So it hurts more than it helps, I think. Because
it makes you lean back on top of those sexual addictions, like still, like your curiosity is there too. I mean, that also has a lot to do with your writing, since it's in your mind so much.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, when so many hours a day are spent focusing for real. Not just, I jerked off today, but I mean, literally, when you're fucking, when you go through 3 prostitutes in a night sometimes because you just need that perfect high to come, I mean, it's like doing drugs again, man. I've been sober a long time, but that's what it's like.
And maybe if you ever conquer that, you will work outside yourself. You will go, hey, CNN had something interesting on.
Yeah, that'll just become a self-important douche. You ever notice?
All right, let's go that way, because you do seem like a guy who will say not everybody is a comedian. Some of the comedians go in here and said, doesn't matter what type of comedy it is. But for you, there are hacks.
Yeah.
And there are people that you don't think, I'm in the same business as them.
Yeah, I mean, well, hacks are funny. I mean, a hack joke is like McDonald's. Those are funny jokes, so hacks always do well on stage. You know what I mean? Hacks are not that easy to spot, and that's why comedians hate them, because you watch a guy. It's almost like somebody saying, "Wow, that was a wonderful painting," but it's fucking painting by numbers because you saw him backstage and you saw like the one and the red and
right.
That's why it annoys comics. It's not a jealousy thing. It's like it's just irritating because you kind of know how they came to that stuff. But yeah, there's plenty of hacks. I mean, guys, I love Patrice. I love guys that talk about themselves and their own lives.
All right, for you, you're saying, all right, you don't paint by numbers. You're throwing paint up there, and you have to be in that moment.
No, I'm not. I don't mean it like I'm a renegade either. Like, I mean, I do want the picture to look nicely, but I mean, I fuck up a lot. You know, I mean, and it's like I don't want to paint by numbers. And again, I don't think I'm up there doing Andy Kaufman either. But you try to strive for some kind of originality. Otherwise, you're shit.
When did you find that this is the character? I mean, was that early on? Is this kind of the same Jimmy Norton we would have seen 6 months into his career, or what?
No, I was an embarrassment. I watched tapes of myself from the old days, and I can't, like, when I first came on, I literally cannot watch it. I'd rather watch myself blowing somebody on film.
And those are available.
Oh, they certainly are.
Yeah. So, at what point did it kick in for you that you said, I'm not on the right track?
I don't know, man. It's just from being on stage every night.
Yeah.
It just kind of happens. There was no moment or no light. It just kind of happens from performing night after night after night. And when I'm at the Comedy Cellar every night and you're working with guys like Colin and Nick and Geraldo and really fucking funny guys, it's like if you suck and you're a hack and you're up there, they're going to call you out on it and you're going to get teased relentlessly. You're kind of, by osmosis, forced to do your own thing or you're just going to get called out on it.
I watch you do at least 6 or 7 different types of comedy all the time, you know?
Well, it's like a guy, like when you do like Leno or something like that, like the way it works for the Tonight Show is they know what you're going to, they say, just tell us, give us 3 panel minutes, tell us pretty much what you're going to do, so they have to put it through their censors, and give us the out cue, the out word, and then Jay will ask the next question. So you kind of have an idea of where it's going to go. Leno's pretty much, boom, boom, boom. But I like doing the show. I prefer that because he doesn't step on you. I love doing Leno, man. I love that show.
Well, it's kind of interesting to me that you talk about the sexual addiction and you know that that's somewhat screwed up for you. But at the same time, it doesn't seem unlike the same thing that you have with comedy where I want something that I almost can't get to, you know. It seems like you're still grinding it back in a different direction.
Yeah, the unattainable. It's almost like when you do coke, you know. It's a lot of times you spend 20 years looking for that first or second high, and with comedy, it just keeps refueling itself. I mean, because I killed last night, so I want it again, or I bombed last night, so I have to kill. You know what I mean? There's always something to push you forward. The sexual addiction, though, it's got to fucking stop. Because even when it's not acting out, I got a girlfriend now, and I'm good. But it's still mental, and it's still a mental obsession. It's fucking awful.
Has she read the book, your girlfriend?
Yeah, we went to San Francisco recently, and her grandmother was fucking her grandmother's 85, and she's perusing it. And I'm like, why did we fucking bring this to your family's house, you dope? And she said her grandmother read it in one night, which kind of creeped me out. She liked it, and my girlfriend is reading it now, but she's very slowly reading it. It's hard to read that shit about your boyfriend, that he's picked up all these prostitutes, because my girlfriend's smart, man. She's not a dummy. She knows. Like, a lot of it is the truth, all of it,
Well, I guess it's the same for your family, too. I mean, you're right in there, a great family, normal middle-class kid. They did everything right. But they sit back and read this book and go, geez, we thought he was out, at a seesaw. And he's getting the neighborhood kids to blow him.
And he reciprocated. So at least he's not selfish.
I mean, at one point, have they ever said to you, why didn't you come to me?
No, because I tell you why. Because I think that the fact that I had such problems young with drinking and drugs, and the fucking suicide attempts and all that nonsense. However disingenuous some of them were, a lot of times it was about attention. But I think after that, and then I got sober when I was 18, so it's like it's all gravy. Like your parents are just happy to see you not doing that. So they've always been very loving. I'm very lucky, man. I have a great family. My mother, my father, my sister. They've always been extremely supportive. But I made them wait 7 years before they came to see me live. You know what I mean? I didn't want family there. I didn't want an unnatural reaction from an audience. I didn't want love from people who already loved me. That was cheating, But my family's been fucking great. But they saw the worst, So it's like this is all like, so what? You got Horace? Well, you're not cutting your veins anymore. So
right,
it's nice.
And I guess. It was a real rough time there in the teenage years before you did this stuff. I mean,
I don't know what it is though. It's like it's self-induced. To my knowledge, something happened. I don't really know what it is. I find myself riding back to my old neighborhood, and there's something awful there. I just don't know what. But it was nobody else was doing. I don't think. You know what I mean? I don't have this traumatic experience that I can remember. I've always had this fucking awful self-worth. And to me, that's always been like, well, at least that's there. Like, even from a young age, like, you can go through the process of trying to fix this, but you can always blow your brains out. Like, that's always the option. It was almost comforting to know that it was there. I always wanted to do comedy since I was like 12, but I kind of believed it was a dream that would never happen. But when I started, I left myself no safety net. I kind of made a decision that this was it. I was going to do comedy. And, I see a lot of guys that are like, I'm doing comedy and I'm going back to school. I'm like, well, good luck. Good luck, man. You got a safety net. You're not going to become obsessed. To me, to be really a great comic, you have to somehow be obsessed with it because what else is going to motivate you? It's like, fuck your social life. I can't tell you how many relationships I've blown because New Year's Eve I work, birthdays I work, anniversaries I work. To me, that's more important. And women understandably don't want that. They want a guy that spends time with them. But again, you can't tell a girlfriend, but I love you, but you don't compare to this. You never will. Nothing you do for me will ever be that fucking high. You can't compete with that.
Everything is going to be secondary to what happens on that stage, and it's just night by night.
Yeah, man. It really is. I mean, in the overall picture, I mean, there's things that I'll prioritize, like in a moment or in a night, of course. But overall, I've always seen myself, like the only quality I've ever really seen myself having is being funny. Mm-hmm. And to me, it's the only quality of myself that I really care about either way. I think I'm a nice guy off stage. I'm a caring person, whatever. But I mean, the thing I associate myself with is that. So that's all I'm really focused on is
you are
gigs.
A comic. I mean, it's not something you do. It's something you are.
I mean, what else am I going to do? I mean, it's like I've always loved doing it. I've always loved making people laugh. So it's kind of like the natural thing. A lot of guys are writers, and sometimes they write brilliant material, but off stage they're just they're pieces of wood. They're there's nothing worse than an unfunny comic. Nothing. Like at a table with a bunch of comics and we're smashing each other, and the one guy that can't take it, and he makes some snarky cunt remark. Oh, fuck yourself. Fucking submit jokes to Conan, douchebag. Right. Fucking sit here and hang out and try to be funny. It's the fucking worst. And I love seeing those guys come and be uncomfortable.
And when you're sitting there with your buddies after the show and you're talking about your show, that's just as important as being on stage. You're also performing there. You're competing there.
Yeah, but you're being natural there. Like you're competing in a way, but you're also loving them beating you. Mm-hmm. I can't tell you the beatings I've taken, and I mean from Patrice and Colin and Keith Robinson. When you have those guys destroying you, all you can do, and Voss, who is miraculously as dumb as he is he can be so quick and so funny. And when those guys are pounding you, Bobby Kelly is a great one too at fucking crucifixions. All you can do is just cover up and take the savaging. And I love it. I'm being beaten by some of the funniest people in the country. These guys are great. It's like you're relishing in how funny other people are. So that to me is something I love very much. I love getting my teeth kicked in by people who I admire too.
And it seems to be very tribal, the way you talk about it. I mean, these are the in people. It's almost like nobody could understand a test pilot but other test pilots. I mean, these are the people that you understand most in the world and the people that understand you most, right?
Yeah, comedians. I have a real soft spot for comedians.
The interesting thing, too, is that when I go back over the book, something about your work I've always thought of as fearless. And yet I read that you were pretty fearful early on, that you were saying, we're talking about something that you love, but you were hoping that gigs would be canceled because you were afraid to be on stage.
I remember when I was working with Vinnie Brand, who now owns the Stress Factory in New Jersey, and Voss. Mm-hmm. And I loved gigs getting canceled because I was scared of bombing. But the fear is not bombing. The fear is that there's going to come a day where it's exposed that I'm not funny, that the gift is not there. Like that's like not I'm going to bomb or certain people hate my guts. That's irrelevant. It's all of a sudden I'm going to realize you're not funny. This whole thing has been a mistake. Like, you're not in that group. That's the fear, and it's always been the fear. So rather than risk that on a nightly basis, I wanted gigs to get canceled. And I remember when he got canceled, I was working with Voss and Vinny, and we all got our $50. And Voss was one of the first times I ever met him, and he had his ponytail and his shitty teeth. He's like, "You're lucky we're giving you any money, pal." It's just such a Voss is an abrasive prick of a person, but behind your back, he's a nice guy. Voss is weird. He's really sweet behind your back, but to you, he's awful. He's just the opposite of the way most people are.
So for you, you're saying it's a gift, and it could disappear. There's some part of you, even now, that you're like, what if this thing is gone? Right?
I think so. I mean, I've always looked at being funny as that. I mean, maybe it's an ability, or maybe it's a defense. I mean, I don't know what it is. I mean, I've noticed that most comics I know, there's something gravely wrong with them.
Right.
There really is. Because I think in a way being funny is an overcompensation. It's a defense way. It's a way not to get beat up. It's a way to get girls. It's a way to do something, to achieve something. So every comic I know is addicted to drugs, to sex, to get to something. I mean, Seinfeld, I don't know well. I know him very casually. I don't see any real flaws with him. So there's something there. I don't know what it is, but there's got to be something that motivated him to be funny.
It could be his wife, but that's just me. I don't know. It might be mean to say. Tell me what the gift is, though. You said this gift.
The way I look at it is to be able to make other people laugh.
Right.
Because it's like even people who I don't think are funny, like I think that guy sucks. I still know when somebody's funny. Even
Right.
if he doesn't make me laugh at all, I still understand that he's a funny guy. Or that was fucking funny. And to me, the high of making people laugh, I love doing it, and I feel gifted to be able to do it. Not like gifted like I have something over people, but to be able to fucking do that. It feels amazing. And I watch people who want that so badly and don't have it, and that makes me sad. Like, my friend tried stand-up, and no matter what he did, he couldn't be very funny. He could say the word, but it just wasn't in him to be that guy. Mm-hmm. And I would always hurt for him when I saw him. Like, God, that must fucking be painful. I know comics that have committed suicide, and all of them have been bad. I mean, Richard Jennings is a really weird anomaly because he was a brilliant comic. He was a great writer and a prolific comedian. But the other guys I know that, and one woman who I know who hung herself, I think three of them that I knew, and none of them were very good on stage. And it's like they weren't getting the relief they needed from comedy. They weren't getting that.
All right, we're here with Jimmy Norton from the O&A show. Also, of course, the New York Times bestseller book, Happy Endings. Now, how much stuff have you had on TV? The book, you're doing 5 hours a day on the radio with O&A. This is just a ridiculous amount of writing that's going on over, let's say, the past 5 years.
Yeah.
Are you able to keep up this pace? Does it seem insane to you, the schedule that you're keeping?
Yeah, it's weird to get up at 5:15. I'm in studio by 10 of 6 because I don't have the pressure that those guys do, man. My job is different than their job. So it's a little less pressure, a lot less pressure actually. And then I'll go home, try to nap, and then I'll go on stage that night. I go on every night. So it is a lot, but I'm on stage a lot. So now it's like the hour I did for HBO. I'm trying really hard not to do any of that material anymore. So now I'm on stage, eating my balls a lot because I'm trying new stuff. And, it's fun, though. I don't know how guys do the same shit for 10 years. It's like, how the fuck do you say that again? You know what I mean? Believe me, this fucking, as a performer, there's certain things I've fucking harped on that, believe me, I'm sick of when they come out of my mouth. I don't know how you do an entire hour for 10 years. You should just blow your brains out.
Well, looking at stand-up as an art form, if, let's say, you were a songwriter, you would almost be forced to do the early stuff. Where when people come out to see you, even your biggest fans do not want to hear the stuff that they heard last time they saw you.
I think his jokes are contingent upon kind of catching you off guard. Mm-hmm. Like, a joke's a weird thing. And I think that's funny about musicians. It's like, you lucky motherfuckers. Axl could come back now if he got over his stupid fear of performing, whatever it is, and just do Welcome to the Jungle, and people would go nuts. And it's like, you fucking lucky bastard, man. I have to have new shit.
He's got that for the rest of his life.
Yes, he does.
And where and even if you don't make some kind of leap, now they're doing, he's doing that Norton thing. I mean, that happened with Kinnison, where he would write new material, but they went, it somewhat reminds me of.
Yeah.
I mean, really, really, I think the audiences are tougher on a comic than any other art form that there is out there.
There's something very personal about it. And it makes me love the audience, and it makes me hate them, because, again, they groan and they judge it. It's like, you fucking cocksucker, you love Scarface, you love violence, and then you're mad you're going to sit there and try to impress your fucking date by groaning at me. You know what I mean? That's what they're doing. They're performing too. Fuck, I know what the fuck they're doing. It's
not
phony.
Crazy about those folks.
I hate them. They're like special interest groups in front of you. They're just, it's fraudulent outrage.
At any point you ever said to yourself too, I wonder why there's not more critical acceptance for this kind of work, where no one's going to be really writing up Bob Kelly's new act in Rolling Stone and I caught him here. It's still, as big as comedy gets from time to time and settles back down, it never is up there with the other art forms.
Well, yeah, and I'll tell you, Keith Robinson who had a great way of phrasing it, because a lot of the guys that run comedy and are critics, none of them are funny, or most of them are not funny. Mm-hmm. He put it beautifully. He said they're front of the bus guys. Not in a tough guy way, but most comics are the fucking clowns that sat in the back of the bus and teased each other and acted like assholes. The guys that run the business and are critics are guys that hated that deep down, but they couldn't do it. They couldn't do it, so they resented it, but they have to be a part of it somehow. A lot of them are people that wanted to perform. Most critics somehow wanted to be involved, but they didn't have what it took. They're fucking wannabes. And so most critics, we all want critical acceptance. I'd be a liar if I said I didn't, because it helps you sell more tickets. But most critics, when you strip them of everything, are fucking wannabes. And they're resentful. And they will say things are great because it seems brilliant to say certain things are great. And I'm sure sometimes they genuinely love things, but they will trash other things that they think the masses like because for some reason they're brilliant and the masses are stupid. So most critics, I detest.
Do you read everything that's written about you? Are you able to do that, even the message board stuff?
Most stuff I read is negative.
It is kind of funny that you say that because through the book you rip on yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, you're really, really tough on yourself physically. And I remember, thinking, does this guy know that he's had the HBO specials, best-selling book, he's on the biggest morning show in the country right now. He's done Kimmel, Letterman, Leno. I can't think of another comic who's done stand-up on all three of those shows. I don't think anybody is touching the output of work that you're doing right now, and it doesn't seem to mean shit to you at all.
No, no.
It's odd.
I mean, I'm happy about it.
Yeah.
I acknowledge, understand it. It's good. But the old expression, wherever I went, there I was. I mean, that stuff is not going to make me feel great about myself because, that stuff is just, it's outside shit. It's like my problem with me or my dislike of me has always been there. And it probably always will be. I mean, I'm almost afraid to lose it.
Because that would mean what?
I don't know what I would have to say anymore because I've been thinking that way for so long. The thinking is real. It's not a little hat I put on when I go to a club. I mean, it's just the way I think. And a lot of people think that way, which is why some people hate me because they might not or they get sick of it. But people who really relate to it, I think, like it.
But at any point do you answer yourself and say, who else? Working today has done this stuff. I mean, if you're not going to feel good about this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I feel good for moments. I'm almost too scared of feeling too good and becoming complacent. Because what drives me is like feeling awful. So I'm kind of afraid of being too comfortable or too happy because those guys, then their lives come and their second special sucks dick because they were too happy going to the Hamptons or going to, L.A. I'm almost afraid to enjoy it too much.
Yeah, I don't think you got to worry about that. I think you are so far away from enjoying it even a little bit.
Yeah.
Maybe just a little. Maybe just to look back and say, Jesus Christ.
Well, I hate looking at myself, man. Like, I was watching the special. I had to edit the HBO special, and I'm watching it. I'm like, you muggy, ugly motherfucker. It's all I'm thinking watching. Like, because I laughed at one thing. I'm like, and I'm like, yeah, you fucking asshole. And I'm just as alone. I mean, I'm not... if you see the special when I come out, I really should have a fucking frying pan buried in my head. I walk out and I go, thank you! Thank you! And I will never watch that special and not fucking cringe when I see that opening thank you.
That thank you ruined everything for you.
But I think it's like, every performer I think has that as we focus on the negative, or at least the comedians do. I don't know what goes into making, I kind of resent actors in a sense. Because I think that they resent me. A lot of sketch artists and sketch comics don't look at stand-up like it's this. And it's like, fuck you, man. You stand there and fucking tolerate that shit. You're running around 5 other guys on stage. Freeze! Fuck yourself. And I don't resent them for doing that, but I resent them for this weird look I have. Because it really is a weird vibe people have about comedy. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? You're right, it's not put as highly, I guess, because the critics don't look at it the same way until they have to. Like, Sam's a guy they never would have fucking liked. You know what I mean? Because they're the guy he hated. He was obnoxious and vicious and loud. But once so many people accepted him, they kind of had to go, all right,
Right.
It went beyond just the dumb masses. He got tremendous. It was like you'd be a dummy to deny that he was great. And that's when a lot of times critics would go, all right, he's great. Because their backs were against the wall.
But then also looked, they turned on him quick enough, too. Towards the end of his life, it wasn't that easy on him.
Yeah, I've only met him once. Mm-hmm. I met Kinison one time. I got him to sign a napkin. I'm very grateful I did that because I still have it. He autographed the napkin for me. We talked for a couple of minutes. And I think what happens to a lot of guys is they change to a certain degree because they get caught up with drugs or their lives change and their act somehow changes. Because then Kinison all of a sudden was a rock star, man. He wasn't just a comedian anymore. He was a rock star, and there was a different vibe to him, I think. And still was very funny. But I think people a lot of times don't want to see you doing that well because they can no longer feel like they relate to you.
All right, we're going to also take some questions from the audience. You can always walk up to this mic, and we'll call on you from time to time. Earl will be over there. We are talking with Jimmy Norton, who's got an HBO special. Also, the book, Happy Endings, is still in the stores, still in the charts. And every morning you can hear him on the O&A show.
Yes.
For you, the book, totally different from the act. It doesn't. It seems to have almost a different pacing than your act.
Yeah, that's why it was weird doing the book on tape. I'd actually like to redo that because I'm not happy. I allowed somebody to dictate to me how to say it because I'd never done it, but I'll never do that again. But the cadence, some of that stuff's in the act, but majority of it is not. When comedians just put their act on paper, it's like, what the fuck are you doing? You know, it's cheating, man. It's like you're just fucking whoring the same shit they paid to hear, and now you want them to pay to fucking read it on the plane, you dickhead. There's something really dishonest about that. So the cadence is different of writing for me. I love to write, but it's hard to write now that I'm back on the radio because I'm creatively satisfied. Most of that was written when we were off the air, and I was manically depressed, and I had no outlet. So I would just come home after fucking literally spending the entire night looking for whores, and just depressed and wanting to leap out a window and just write. I had to do something. So that's why that book was even written.
All right, so you're still doing stand-up.
Yeah.
You're also doing the Comedy Central show. But not having the morning show, not having the radio show, that's still got to your head. Like, there's still some need to get out there.
I hated God. I hated him. Because, again, it's not like, your radio show got canceled, but I'm like, I finally found something where I'm succeeding and I love it, and you take it away, man. It's gone. It was like, because I never thought I was going to go anywhere in comedy. And I finally have something, because O&A was so fucking good to me, and I'm like, selling tickets in certain places, and now it's gone. Oh, yeah, that's right, you're Jimmy Norton. Like, that's how it felt like. It was that exposure. Like, see, it was a fucking illusion, stupid. So Colin, who I love, Colin Quinn. I mean, and when people don't like Colin Quinn, you're a dummy if you don't understand how funny he is. Even if he doesn't make you laugh, if you don't understand how funny he is and understand how brilliant he is, you're an idiot. Because comedians all adore him because we understand how there's nobody better. Tough Crowd was not about the issues, ever. It was about our awful relationships with each other. And that was Colin's genius, is dissecting relationships. Nobody can pick apart true personal interactions better than him and accurately. And that's what it was about, just a bunch of idiots who were trying to speak about the issues and then just degenerating into shut your mouth, stupid, because that's who we are. And that's why I kind of hated Comedy Central for canceling that show and putting on Graham Norton. That was funny.
So it was Colin's piece to kind of bring you guys in and turn you all on each other like a bad uncle?
Yeah,
just have you fighting in the basement?
And he would take his beatings too, though.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? He was a self-important ass at times, and he knows it. And that was all the Comedy Cellar. That's what we do there. We just shit on each other. We talk about the issues, and we always just degenerate into teasing each other. And that was what the show was. So yeah, I love Colin because that gig was very, very important to me.
That ran for about a year.
Two seasons.
2 seasons.
Yeah.
2 seasons, and then that was pulled back from
Yes.
you. Then you went to HBO.
Well, I went right back to O&A, and then 2004, a few months later, 6 months later, I landed a half-hour special, which I did not like. I was fucking fat, and my neck, I watch it. I hate that special. And I wound up doing that, and then doing Lucky Louie, which the critics hated. I didn't mind the critics not thinking it was funny. I accept that. What I didn't like is when they criticized things like language, or there were certain things that I knew that they didn't want to like it because they thought it was too basic or the language wasn't snarky enough for them or, sophisticated enough for them. Yet Deadwood, every other word was fuck or cunt. It's accepted in every other art form where they would criticize Louis and his wife having sex. They're a married couple fucking horribly like married people do. And people had a problem with that. I guess everyone wants to watch overly dressed sets. You know what I mean? Like, you watch who the fuck lives in an arena-sized bedroom with little glasses and colorful things? And nobody lives like that. It's just a bunch of fucking homos who just have to justify their own position on the set, so they overdo it, and they put the paintings, they all go, oh my God, that's lovely. And they fucking film it. It's awful. But again, if people didn't think Lucky Louie was funny, if it didn't make you laugh, if you hated the acting, I'll never argue with that. I'll never argue with that because that to me is a very justifiable criticism.
And they will go at they'll say that's an easy laugh if you tend to work blue.
Yes, just like but it's funny. Why don't they turn on fucking Cosby and say that a kid doing a cute? Why am I yelling at you?
No, I have it right. I'm just glad you're not yelling at you for a minute. I'm really satisfied with that.
But no, but it's amazing. An easy laugh is like. Is to me is something that's hacky, and people having real interactions is not an easy laugh. We didn't use canned laughter. Easy laughs are fucking everyone in Hollywood using those laugh machines, and they all use it. Louis would not allow one joke to be sweetened. If a joke bombed and the final thing, but he liked it, it stayed in. And some critics complain that the laughs were too loud, that they're obnoxious because they're not used to hearing a live audience without that sitcom barrier. They put a plexiglass barrier in a lot of sitcoms. Louis did not do that. When Rick Shapiro walked out naked in that episode, I watched it. It's the biggest laugh I've ever seen anything get in a live situation. Ever. And they were not, most of those people, they bust them in. They were like a lot of rehab people. Mm-hmm. They weren't fans of ours. They never heard of our dumb show because we didn't have the advantage of airing every week. We aired in a hunk. So we did 13 episodes where nobody knew who the fuck we were. So there was no buildup of characters like, oh, it's Kramer again, or it's this guy, or, whatever. So, yeah, I hate easy laughs. To me, a lot of times what they do in sitcoms are easy laughs because they're going to fucking sweeten it regardless whether the audience liked it or not.
The other thing for you, too, is that you get these things that you love, then you have them taken away from you from time to time. And the work that you do, it could all crumble down on you because of what we've seen happen with Imus,
yes,
on and on and on. At any given moment, you could say something that could set everybody off.
Yeah, I mean, and it's not... It's because people's outrage is fraudulent and dishonest. The Asian groups, to me, they're frauds, and just like the black groups are, and just like the women's groups. And what happens is special interest groups, they had a really good purpose and a very honest purpose, which is defending people who were being shit on and fighting for people who were vilified for no reason. But then once a lot of that's accomplished, well, if there's nothing to argue about or to bitch about, we cease to exist. Mm-hmm. And that's what keeps them going. So they're going to find something. So to me, you can't obsess about it. You can't obsess about, am I going to say the wrong thing? If you go on the Tonight Show and you drop the N-bomb, you're a dumb motherfucker. But you were a dumb motherfucker 10 years ago to do that. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? If you say something that but the fact that Imus got dumped for that, it makes, first of all, no one safe because he billed a lot for CBS. He billed a lot more than we'll ever bill because of the fucking sponsors he had. If he can get fired, any of us can go. And the outrage over that was completely fraudulent. I didn't buy it. I didn't buy it from black people. I didn't buy it from fucking anybody at CBS. I didn't buy it from any of them. It was just a chance because white people are terrified to be accused of being racist. Mm-hmm. So whenever another white person is called racist, they will usually co-sign for it because, oh, yeah, that's very terrible that he does that because they have a superiority complex. Boring.
Everybody's scattered from Imus pretty much except for you guys.
Well, I mean, there was, comedians a lot of times defended him. But Whoopi Goldberg, to me, was a sin. I love the fact that fucking rappers now are getting a dick stuck in them. Good. Because you motherfucker, of all people, rappers have gotten killed on content. Nobody has had their shit restricted or looked at harder than rappers. And they came out against them. They came out against the guy who was being fired for something he said. It was repulsive. D.L. Hughley was great. He said something. I'm going to steal his quote. I think he said, "Free speech is a zero-sum game." He was just basically saying that there should be no limits on it other than what time, place, and manner in the Constitution. So the fact that and it is a fucking constitutional issue. Well, they're a company. They have the right to fire you. But you know what? It's like if you're coming after a guy and you're making him lose his livelihood because he said something that bothered you, then to me it is something constitutional about that because you can always find a reason to fucking justify booting somebody. The liberals say it's hate speech. The fucking conservatives say it's family values. Right. They're all phonies.
Yeah, and then there you are right in between them. You don't have one group that's going to swing in.
No, that's why, by the way, when O&A got in trouble, the fact is we had people pushing back, which was very fortunate for us. Of course, Debbie and the fucking People Against Censorship, right? Did I get it right? That helped because now the news had somebody else to talk to.
Right.
They had somebody else to talk to. They had a bright woman to talk to, and they had other people out there reacting. They had something to focus on. It's amazing how guys like Sharpton and guys like Jesse Jackson, we all know that they're fucking cocksuckers, and yet they have influence. He said Hymietown. He said and he was a presidential candidate. It's amazing how anybody listens to him. He said he didn't like Jews. When you call New York Hymietown, you're saying, I don't like Jews. He's gone to, I think, to meet with Muammar Gaddafi. This is a guy who really has influence. But Imus says something, and he's fucking booted off the air because everybody's afraid of being, we're not racist, Jess,
So for you now, you've got to keep an eye on this, even when it's not you or anybody you know, and you'll be on the defense of this now. Because if it happens anywhere, it's kind of happening to you.
Yeah, in a way it is, yes. Yeah. But we should all be disgusted by it. It's like I would never want anybody to not be able to say what they want, ever. I know I have a reputation for shitting on liberals, but my problem with liberals is not the political beliefs. It's not. I don't agree with a lot of them, but there's a lot of what they do that I love. My problem with them is they have become the conservatives. Like, I perform in colleges, and they were places that want you to sign something saying you will not make racial jokes, you will not make gay jokes, and they hide behind, well, this has to be a safe haven. But they are supposed to be this oasis of free speech and free thought, and they've become as fucking repressive as anybody else.
Anything out of bounds for you? Anything at all where you go, geez, I'm not comfortable
Yes,
with that?
Things that I think will hurt somebody in the moment. Mm-hmm. There's a difference to me between a subject like wheelchairs or burn victims. I know what my motives are at all times, but for a burn victim to be here, I don't mean you don't do racial jokes if there's a black guy or woman jokes if there's women. I'm saying if you're going out of your way to be vicious to somebody, to hurt somebody, and your excuse is I'm trying to be funny, you're being phony. To me, that's off limits. I really try, as vicious as I can be, to never truly try to hurt somebody because I really want people to laugh, man.
Right.
And, you don't want somebody to be hurt by what you're doing.
So for your thing is you would want the people, let's say if you were doing an Italian joke, you'd want the Italians to laugh at it.
Absolutely.
You don't want the Italians to be the only people in the room not laughing.
Not at all, because there's nothing you could talk about that will make me want to walk out. Mm-hmm. I'm one of these ignorant people. I hold everyone else to the same standards I hold myself to. You know what I mean? I don't care how radical you are on stage. I may find it repulsive, but I would never go, or, hey, Bob, ever. Mm-hmm. I love Farrakhan. I really do. I loved Khalid Muhammad because these guys just enraged people. I didn't like what they said. I thought a lot of it was just shit. But I like the fact that, to me, they're great Americans because what they're doing is saying things that make people want to put bullets in them, and they're free to say it. That, to me, honestly, it's like... It's funny. It's like one of the sig pics on .net, message board that hates my guts, has a great fucking thing. It's free speech is not defending popular speech because by definition popular speech doesn't need to be defended. I don't know whose original quote that is, but it's brilliant, and we've lost that. And it really is frightening that people are now, they want this word banned. And not, it's like, what are you fucking doing, man? We're phony. We go around the world trying to impose our will on everybody else and talk about democracy, and we're simply just trying to pick apart what you can say and what you can't say and what's appropriate, what's not appropriate, just because somebody might be offended. Not because they're going to be hurt like fire in a movie theater, but they might be offended.
You know, I had never really thought about that till you brought it up, but if you look at Malcolm X and then even on the other side and go to like George Wallace, we don't have anybody who's that good on stage from a political point of view. There used to be great speakers. John F. Kennedy was a great speaker. Sure. Bobby Kennedy was a great speaker. But nobody would say George Bush or Gore or any of those guys really grab a room. It's almost a lost art form.
Well, Reagan, I think they called him the great communicator because he had an ability. I believe he had a Democratic Congress or Senate or whatever it was, and he had an ability to get shit through because he was such a wonderful speaker. Clinton was good, too. Clinton's a charismatic guy, man. You can't not love Clinton.
Maybe that, but you never remember their speeches. Those speeches are rarely quoted as much as some of the other people from the 60s.
I don't know. Part of that's probably because we're not putting out good people. Part of it's also because with the Internet and with 50 channels and with cable, there's so many more outlets. It's almost like when you said something in 1960, there were 3 stations and the radio station broke into it.
Right.
There wasn't all distractions of scandal. You imagine fucking Marilyn Monroe, the 2 brothers, how fast that would have made the papers today? But back then, they laid off. They didn't photograph FDR in a wheelchair. It's like everything you said, everybody watched.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then media didn't attack you a certain way. So I just think it was a different way of communicating back then as well.
It's also interesting to me that you're a guy who says, I don't speak much outside myself, and I see you doing that quite a bit when you want to. You know, It goes apart from some of the things that you say about yourself.
Well, like when I say I don't always obsessively talk about my own life, but if I talk about politics or whatever, I just try to skewer it honestly. I guess maybe what is my own honest feelings about things are all. I'm not always right. I know that. I'm an ass sometimes. I'm a self-important idiot. I fucking trash things on the radio, and I'm wrong. And my opinion is wrong. But it's honest. You know what I mean? Who the fuck said you always have to be right? As long as you're telling the truth as you see it. You know, I mean, that's all I have, I should say.
All right, let's some folks going over here, and we'll take some questions for Jimmy and get this thing going. Just walk on over here to the microphone. Now you've been listening. Everyone's a little fucking nervous now, aren't you? These are all the people in the dark making those moaning noises.
I've just put them to sleep. And they're all like, all right, look, melatonin.
It always takes one. Here you go. What's your name, man?
Hey, Joe.
Hi, Joe.
Hey, Jimmy, one of your first big breaks was with Dice.
Yes.
And I noticed listening to the show and a lot of the replays, especially when the guys would tear into him a little bit after the meltdown he had. You're always very quiet about that. Is there any animosity with the way things shook down, knowing he gave you such a big stage to work with, yet he went shitty on you?
Well, what happened with Dice was Andrew. I had a weird thing with him. My loyalty is with Opie and Anthony because I've been with them for so long, and what they've done for me is, I never fail to recognize what the guys have done, and it's not out of politeness; it's for real. I mean, they come to my book signings. They don't make money from that. They get nothing from that other than supporting me, and they like to meet the fan. You know what I mean? So my loyalty's with those guys. Andrew never bashed me personally. I know what he was doing with the radio show is just trying to make himself, I think, just trying to get something started to go on Stern. It makes me sad more than angry what happened because I loved him. I mean, he changed my life. It would be hard for me to bash Dice if he attacked me, I would attack him back.
Have you talked to him since that happened?
Yes. I've seen him once. Yeah. I saw him in L.A. What made me angry about Andrew, though, was I was touring with him and Jim Florentine, and then he stopped calling me back. We were supposed to do a date in Seattle. I just never heard from him again. And I didn't know why. So that kind of pissed me off. And then 2 years later, I saw him in Los Angeles. And we said hello. We hugged. And I'm like, what happened? He's like, I was going through my divorce. I was not good at talking. And it was over a joke. He thought I took a Christopher Reeve joke from him. And I'm like, man, I'm a comic. All I have is my integrity. What was the joke? And he goes, it's not a long time ago. Maybe I'm wrong, man. I apologize. It was, I was, in a weird place. I'm like, tell me the joke. And I forget what the joke was, but our jokes on Christopher Reeve were completely different. So it was like, maybe it was something else. You know what I mean? But I didn't steal a joke. But I have a really weird feelings about Dice. It makes me sad that it happened like that. Do you
think some comics always need that feud, though, to drag them? I remember Dice used to fight with Kinnison, and they both fought with different people. And it just seems like sometimes comics need that almost like rappers. They got to have somebody to be pissed at.
Yeah, I just think that he didn't need it with Opie and Anthony because those guys really loved him. I mean, they really did. Opie would hang out at his house. I mean, they were friends, off-the-air friends.
They just came from left field. There's no reason that
completely shocked. I mean, and this is stuff you'll hear on the air, but it's something I remember happening in person. And what the fuck is he doing? Why? It was confusion more than anything. And he said he was angry because Opie never called him back. When he called, Dice said, I want to talk to Opie before I go on the show because Opie's dad had been killed. And he said, I can't just go on and do the radio. But Opie wasn't calling anybody back then. He wasn't thinking of being courteous and calling a guy back. He was just trying to get through every day. So, that to me just made me sad that Dice took that route.
And it seems like friendships are really almost everything to you. It seems like some of your comic friends are the longest relationships of your life.
Yeah, I mean, well, again, I'm doing comedy 18 years now, almost. So it's like those are the guys I've been seeing for years. Mm-hmm. But there's that weird bond, man. You just, my friends, I don't see each other often. It's funny. I'll be in the cellar one night. The next night, I'm in Dallas. He's in Los Angeles. He's in fucking Florida.
Right.
And I don't see them for a month. I'm like, oh yeah, you moved to LA. Fuck, I forgot. But yeah, they're my longest relationships. I mean, and I'll always probably know Dice unless something ugly happens. But I don't see it as happening to me. I'm hoping everybody makes up someday. I'm like a little codependent whore.
Beyond your comedy friends, do you ever talk to people that you grew up with and have them go, Jesus, I hadn't seen you for years, and they're on HBO tonight is that the kid, he and I used to blow each other underneath the porch. That's got to be weird. Because I have the feeling you don't look all that different from when you're like 6 or 7.
Probably not. Nor do I behave that differently. Give me those ribs. Fucking, that was a sitcom little comeback. Fucking head should pop out of a laughing box sometimes when I talk. Yeah, man, there's certain people I got sober with that I still see and still talk to. But again, comedy's become so all-encompassing for me that I've lost touch with most people because 7 nights a week I'm doing that. And my whole life is that. And I don't mean that to be, pseudo deep, it's my life. But it really is. I'm obsessed. And I have been since I started. And it didn't wane. It got more and more and more. So the relationships that I've maintained our comedian relationships, even from way back when. Bobby Levy, one of my closest friends. Florentine got me my first paid gig in comedy when he was Jammin' Jim, and he had long blonde hair, and I'm like, who is this horse's ass? He was just like a dumb Dee Snider looking guy, and he got me my first paid gig in 1990, and he's been one of my closest friends. So those are relationships I've kept.
You know, you got sober so early, and now you say you struggle with the sexual addictions. Any of the other addictions ever come back to haunt you? Ever, still pressed about alcohol and drugs, or? Well,
the stuff with alcohol and drugs is more. Those are just symptoms of what the real problem is. It doesn't scare me the most, though. Sexual addiction is destructive, but alcohol, for me, there's a risk of blackout and killing people or suicide. Like those are the ones that are terrifying to me. I mean, the idea of doing that is that's what I'm most afraid of, is I'm going to pick up again.
Do you have to work that all the time, or you feel like it's in the background a little bit?
I should.
Yeah.
I should be much more vigilant, because I think above all I'd be happier if I was paying more attention to the spiritual side of my life. Because, I mean, spirituality is just about giving to other people and caring for other people, and I've neglected a lot of that through this obsession through work, which really is a self-obsession.
And yet, it seems like, and I know it seems weird, but you brought up the term spiritual. A lot of your stuff, that's your sacred place. You on stage, you in front of a mic.
In my life, I should be more. I should be more. I mean, I pray every night. I should pray in the morning. And again, whatever religion you are, whatever, man. But I just got to say thanks at the end of the night for fucking being sober.
Right.
I mean, I'm very lucky. I mean, I got sober when I was 18. I'm very fucking lucky.
And is that also, when you're saying this gift that you got to be funny, do you also equate that when you're writing? Do you feel like that's almost a spiritual thing, or?
No, it's funny. I don't think of it like that. I guess I should, but to me, it's been, I think, more of a reactionary survival thing, like not in a melodramatic way. Yeah, but it's been more of a reactive thing. Even though I know it's a gift. Always been, she doesn't like me, But nobody fucks the comic, man. I mean, after a certain point, they start to. But at times, you really do just feel like the big-nosed clowns. They can go home and fuck their boyfriend. It really is irritating.
Hey, my name's Phil.
Hi, Phil.
Jim, you're brilliant, and Ron, no one gives a better interview.
I was thinking the same exact thing. I was thinking this was really going great.
Really is. We are in awe of fucking Ron and the interviewing skills, man. It really is a major... It's something to watch you just be able to fucking pull things out of people until you interviewed kids. I would have nothing to say to them. I really wouldn't. You know what I mean? Yeah. AIDS, AIDS. And you fucking are so good at that, man. Yeah, I feel the same way about him.
I was wondering what art you like doing better, coming up with 5 hours of new material every morning on the radio, playing off, impromptu with a handful of guys, or going on stage night after night doing similar material in front of different audiences, trying to make them laugh.
It's the same. What they are, they're just different. I caught myself. I almost said different branches of the same tree. But I realized the only way to redeem myself would be to cut my throat. But it's the same thing. It's just about being funny. It's like when I'm in the room, maybe it's wrong to do it, but I'm playing to Opie and Anthony. I can't think of what people are thinking outside, which maybe probably makes me not as good of a radio guy as I should be. Mm-hmm. But I'm playing to my buddies. I'm talking to my buddies. That's what I'm thinking of, is what they are thinking.
And that's because you have Opie to be the broadcaster, to be able to think other people are paying attention to this, because you don't put yourself outside that.
No, I mean, and he's fucking great at that, because without that, I get off track so many times, and he's like, well, we got to get back to it. And I know that I would wind up not realizing how uninteresting something is, but he is a lot of times thinking about, all right, what are they thinking out there? What's going through their heads out there, and how do I make this a listenable fucking experience?
My name's Bobo, and I was wondering, can you cite like a single moment where you were inspired to become a comedian?
Yeah, watching Richard Pryor in 1979, 1980 on my TV with my parents, watching live in concert. It's the best stand-up ever done, Richard Pryor live in concert. I always was funny, I always made people laugh. But I didn't know what to do with that. I would write stories when I was a little kid and love when they would be read and people would be laughing, but I didn't understand what comedy was. And I watched him, and it was like, that's what you do with it. So yeah, that for me was the moment.
What was it? Because he was making you laugh, or you saw other people in your life laughing?
Both. My parents were laughing, I was laughing, and he was making people. That was done in Long Beach, California. Pryor made pimps laugh.
Yeah.
And fucking Huey P. Newton. He fucking he introduced Huey Newton. You know how radical you have to be? I introduced Opie and Anthony, and that shouldn't be done. He fucking introduced Huey P. Newton, the fucking leader of the Black Panthers, man. Those are the guys he made laugh. I mean, he fucking had...
And at
really
the same
was
time,
funny.
you had your parents. You know, I mean, that's
Yes.
really, really strange. And it's a powerful thing, I think, when you're a little kid and you see your parents laughing at something. Even if you don't get it, you're like, here's these people who I see being straight or are serious a lot. And they're losing it, and that's a powerful thing for a kid to see.
Well, he was so beautiful because he was doing really necessary and poignant racial stuff, and it was needed and it was genuine. But he never tried to make you feel guilty. I love that about him. He never tried to make you feel guilty about being a white guy, so you didn't have that out. You had to acknowledge it because he was just accurately portraying things, and he was a beautiful man. He really was.
My name's Blake.
Hi.
And I had a question. You know, you were talking about how you put it a post-timeless world now with all these special interest groups and all that, how they, find reasons to pick apart, like one little thing you say. I was wondering, how do you think that's affecting comedians and all that coming up? Like say, you get the average guy who's like trying to stand up now. Do you think it's harder for him to like try to break out? Say, for example, if you get Richard Pryor or Sam Kinison trying to debut in this post-timeless world, it would be almost impossible for them to kind of make it because you got all these special interest groups, and at the same time you have the same things where it's affecting even comedy movies, like say a movie like Blazing Saddles or Zorro the Gay Blade. There's no way that would ever be allowed in this. And how do you think that affects comedians trying to up-and-coming comedians?
Could Pryor break out the same way that you saw him in '79? Would that still happen?
Well, the necessity of what Pryor did is different now, because times are different now. But the genius of him would be the same. He's Richard. Kinison was Kinison. Even though they didn't have as much political correctness, people stood outside with fucking signs, and women's groups, they were attacked, man. Pryor, they were going to arrest him on stage one time for Lenny Bruce thing, but he had 12,000 people in the audience, and they thought better of it because a fucking riot would have broke out. I mean, these are guys. Look at Lenny. Lenny didn't have political correctness, but Lenny shone. I mean, and he was never as funny as Pryor. But even Richard would acknowledge that Lenny kicked open the door for him to be able to do what he did. So yes, Pryor would succeed today. Truly funny people, I think, will not rise above it and change, but find a way to fucking take whatever it is at the time that's so repressive and you kick it in the balls. You can't co-sign it. You can't co-sign it because that's what, to me, what comedians do. It's our job in a way is to take what's awful and what people hate and make it funny. To me, that's I guess what I love about comedy is I don't want to hear about fucking holding my girlfriend's purse in the mall. Gives a shit. It's like people who when after 9/11. I remember, you couldn't go on stage and talk about 9/11, but at the Comedy Cellar, me, Patrice, Keith Robinson, and somebody else were talking about the fantasies we had after 9/11. We all had fantasies about how we would have behaved on the planes. It was a natural human reaction, and we started laughing at what idiots we were. And that's what we went on stage the week of and started talking about. Again, you have to be careful where you put the joke, but to me, that was to allow people to laugh at that. Because Keith Robinson, he's a dumb motherfucker. His fantasy was that he would have recognized they were terrorists and that he would have grabbed the stewardess and hit her before the plane took off. And when the cops came, he would have said, "Those guys are terrorists." That was a fantasy a grown man had about stopping 9/11. So Keith told me that, and I couldn't wait to go on stage and go, "Your host tonight, this is what a fucking dummy he is." And Patrice did it, and so, yeah, man, I guess I don't know where I'm going with that, but there is a way to get through all of that stuff. You just can't you can't co-sign it.
I think that the best will always find a way to break through, no matter what's happened in the society. And occasionally some people go, even though these things are suppressing us and we're being held back, a guy will rise up and get himself a couple of specials on HBO, be on the biggest morning show in the country, and even write a best-selling book. Ladies and gentlemen, Jimmy Norton, let him hear it.
Thank you.
From the legendary comedy club, the Village Underground in New York City, this is Sirius XM's Unmasked with special guest, Jim Norton. Jim is the co-host of the Opie with Jim Norton show, a New York Times best-selling author, And he's currently on his nationwide stand-up comedy tour, Mouth Full of Shame. Sirius XM and the Village Underground are proud to introduce Jim Norton. And now, here's your host of Unmasked, Ron Bennington.
Jim Norton.
Oh, thank you. That's so nice. That always humiliates me. Like, whenever I hear credits, I get so embarrassed. Like, when comedians bring me on, I don't want credits. I'm going to say, your next act is a regular here, because I just get so embarrassed by credits.
Because you're embarrassed of the work, or?
Well, I hadn't actually thought of that angle, but now, yes, that too.
Well, you were just telling me before we came up here about the movie that you and Patrice were in that you still haven't seen.
Yeah, it's called Furry Vengeance. Dude, shut the fuck up, you're gonna get us fired. Okay, we have the same manager. The director, the first time we met the director, I don't even remember what the guy's name was, but we sit in this kitchen, like the set kitchen, and Patrice was just being so rude to the guy. I felt really, because that guy's not what he dreamt of as a director either. There's something, he's watched Dr. Strangelove. That's what I'm going to do. And now he's fucking directing, Brendan Fraser in a talking squirrel film. And Patrice was just, like that sound he would make when he was displeased. And that was it was fun. I'm glad we did it, you know. But I think he wasn't well at the time.
No, and then that ended up killing him.
Yeah, it did catch up with him. Part of me, even though I loved Patrice, I hope that shitty movie is the last thing he thought of.
I like that you put in, even though I love Patrice. But that is always the relationship that you've had with your friends, that if we didn't know that you liked each other, we would have thought that you all hated each other.
Yeah, that's how it's very harsh. There's something about it. It's like people who people who roughhouse. Like comedians don't physically roughhouse, but we're just mean to each other. Shut up. Like true disgust. But there's a love with it, and when you behave that way with someone who's not like one of the acts especially the Comedy Cellar. You forget how harsh that seems to be.
Oh, yeah. Everybody that comes in from California really gets their feelings hurt.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, that bit's terrible. We used to take each other to Hack Court. Did I tell you that last time? No. Years ago. We'd stand outside, outside the Boston Comedy Club down the street. It would be Keith Robinson, myself, Patrice, fucking Bobby Kelly, Kevin Hart, and we would just stand around and all we would do is talk about each other's bits that we thought stunk. And like you would have to defend your bit in front of the other 5 comics, and you were in Hack Court, and nobody wanted to admit their bit stunk. So you'd fight for your bit, and once in a while you'd have to drop one if the other comedians agreed you stink and you're a fucking hack for doing that shit. But it makes you better. I remember I was on stage doing some awful joke, and Colin Quinn happened to be walking through, and as I'm doing the punchline, he went, "Good one, lazy."
So, Kevin Hart, whatever happened to that poor son of a bitch? Is he still there?
It's funny. Like, yeah, he's doing 2 arenas tonight, but is he happy?
Seems it.
Yeah, he sure does. Oh, and Kevin has a giant cock, too. That's the worst. He does. He's notorious. Him and Artie Fuqua had the biggest dicks in stand-up comedy. Artie you could see because he's 6'11", but fucking Kevin Hart has a giant dick, so I figured I would just add to his resume.
Yeah, we're always breaking news stories here on Unmasked.
Absolutely. Patrice was cranky and Kevin's hung. Wow.
That's so fun. By the way, I want to bring this up because our friend Jim Norton here, Esquire magazine just said that you're at the peak. You're at your creative peak.
Yes. I did. I read that. I read that miserable. And if they would have found me hanging by the neck, they would have seen that article open on my laptop. Not that I'm doing okay. We have, because my relative comparison, it's weird as in our business. You know what I mean? It's whether if you're in radio, you're like, well, fucking look what Stern has done, or if you're a stand-up comic, it's like, well, look at Kevin, or even Amy and Louie and all these people who are legitimately funny. Like, you can't even hate the business when you see people like that succeeding, or Bill Burr, because they're like funny people and they kill on stage. So you see that, you're like, fuck, man, I'm a complete failure. But it's not rational. It's just, it's like a lawyer who's doing really well looking at, F. Lee Bailey and going, I stink. Maybe you do compared to him, but compared to other lawyers.
I think it's kind of rational. I think you're right when you're comparing, Amy's doing an arena tour now, right?
She is doing an arena tour, yeah.
And you're doing the biggest tour. Am I right? This is your biggest headlining tour?
No, it's the biggest one I've done in a long time. But I've done bigger rooms years ago. 13, 12 years ago, I was doing. I did the Tower Theater in Philly. I did the Orpheum in Boston. But then I went into clubs because I would shoot a special once a I kind of wanted to do once a year for the last few years.
Yeah.
But so clubs, you can bang out the material, but it was like I couldn't do the clubs anymore. It's just the money's not as good, and I'm like, it fucking stinks. I'd rather just, me and Club Soda Kenny are on the road, and that's always uplifting. The ticket counts aren't good. I know. Even good news sounds sad from him. Looks like you hit bonus. Oh, I should be killed. Oh, that's good.
But you go everywhere with Kenny, right?
I do, yeah. Kenny, it's draining for him, too, he toured, he was with Dice for so many years. And also he's a fucking cop. So he had this exciting life at one point where, he's almost a lieutenant in the police force. He's carrying a gun. He's on a bus with Dice, on a jet with, doing arenas.
Right.
And now, he's in Jacksonville. They should do a documentary about Kenny and, how fucking far his life has gone. And I think the documentary's about me, but it's really about how shitty things are for him that he's stuck with me.
But he's never in a bad mood, Kenny, right? He's always seems like he's up about stuff.
It's hard to tell. It's like trying to figure out if a piranha likes your joke. My remark about Kenny, my line about Kenny, I felt it was accurate. I said he had the people skills of a hornet. And he's just very blunt. Kenny's a very blunt guy, but he's not a liar. Kenny he doesn't lie. He's not good. Sometimes you want someone who can bullshit a little bit, but that's Kenny's fatal flaw, is that he's just not a liar. He's an honest fucking guy.
Yeah. And he doesn't know how to lie. He hasn't. Yeah. He's not creative enough to pull off a lie. That's his thing. Absolute. What I see is exactly what's happening.
Yeah, he really does mirror image. Whatever thought he had, I don't want to say no filter because he there's times when he doesn't want to hear it. And he has a way of telling you, if I'm talking about my body fucking dysmorphia issues, and I'll be like, oh, my stomach, I'm fat. I don't know, should I eat something? Treat yourself. He says that, but I'm like, you think I don't know what you're doing? You're telling me to shut the fuck up and just eat. I know you don't want to hear it.
So you check with Kenny whether or not you should have food.
Yeah, I never really thought of it that way, but so I guess that's what I'm doing. I'm looking to a man with autism for sustenance.
Hey, by the way, is Milkshake on the Vice show? Is that on Dice's new show?
Oh,
is that based on Kenny or?
I hope so. I hope that Club Soda became Milkshake. If Dice is just so uncreative, he has to stay in the beverage family. Hey, I need a nickname for the black guy with one arm. Hey, ice cream float. But I don't know if it's based on Kenny. I've only seen 2 of the Andrew's new show, and it's really funny.
It's great. It really is.
It's fucking great, man. I'm so happy for Dice. It's like that's him. That's the guy I dealt with for all those years. That's the guy. The little weird baby things he does. He's a funny guy to hang out with. And Kenny even told me it's great. We both, from knowing him, are so happy that he's doing so well.
Right. Well, he developed this he kind of got meta and he realizes the things that he does. Before he worked on Dice, I think, all those years, he created the Dice character. But then he figured out that Andrew is pretty fucking nuts, too.
Yeah.
And he knows how to present it. But it is that thing of, because I've heard from you and Florentine and everybody that had opened for him, he would just sometimes make you guys do shitty stuff. Just for his own amusement.
Do you know what's funny? Because I'm moving soon. Nowhere in particular. I'm just going to Iowa. I think it's time to settle down and meet a farm girl and get her pregnant and then fucking kill both of us. I don't know why I had to bring the baby into it. Just want the story to hurt more when they read about it. No, it's funny. I just was packing a box yesterday. I'm getting stuff ready, and I found the cassette, Jim and Jim doing Dice. And when I first met Dice, and I have such a love for Louis Anderson. Fucking Louis Anderson is awesome.
Love him. I'm crazy about him.
Love him. His show, I did his show when I was out in L.A. years ago in 97, and it was a clean show at the Santa Monica Pier. Voss was doing an episode, I was doing one, Florentine. And me, Florentine, Lenny Marcus, and this guy, Rich Francesi, all stayed in one room at the Wyndham Bellage Hotel, which is now the London on Sunset. So I went over to work out my little 7-minute clean TV set. I think I had done one other TV show, Friday Night Videos. So I had to be 7 clean minutes. I'm at the Comedy Store. Maureen Taryn, my manager at the time, got me a spot. And Dice walked in. So I was like, dude, because me and Florentine are obsessed with The Day the Laughter Died. We would always talk. And I was like, dude, I'm a comedian from the East Coast. I love you. And he was like, thanks. And he walked in the back. He was a fucking total dick. So nobody wanted to follow him. And I was supposed to go on or whatever. And I'm like, Dice just bumped everyone. And they're like, Frankie Pace doesn't want to go on. I'm like, I'll go on. Because the way it works at the Comedy Store is the guy who's on, he'll say to the piano player, who's next? And they'll go, Chris Rock or whoever it is, and you just bring them on. The comedian, it's a tag team. So I held up the payphone to Florentine. I'm like, guess who's on fucking stage? So Florentine gets to the store. Dice brings me on. A terrible intro. He's like, who's on? And they're like, Jim Norton. He goes, who? And he goes, no, I know him. He's terrific. You're going to love him. After he just killed for an hour filthy, he douches me on the intro. And did I fucking bomb. It was ugly, but it was fun to do, So I came off stage and Florentine and Andrew were talking. So we all started talking about The Day the Laughter Died, and then we started teasing Dice for how illogical these fucking jokes are. Like, what the fuck was that? It's a terrible joke. And he loved us analyzing his humor, like talking about it literally. Why was you eat a cunt in a big red chair? He just loved it. It was so silly. So he goes, you guys got to do me a favor. You got to go on stage and do this. And we did. We were like, yeah, okay. So we're in the back writing these jokes down with Dice, and then fucking he talks to the guy. The guy doesn't want to do it. The guy who runs the store. So they bring on Jim and Jim, and we go on. And they had just seen me bomb. And now I'm on with a guy who they don't know will someday be a retarded puppet on Comedy Central. They really got their money's worth. And we're just doing the Dice line, but no context, just like little things like that. Or when one filthy line, I got this colored hooker on Mermaid Avenue. Nothing. And then Florentine would do a line. All we hear in the back is stupid Dice laughing and us bombing. And afterwards, he's like, you guys are the fucking greatest. And he wound up the next day, I think, calling us at the hotel. And I think he's like, I'm like, hello? And he's like, it's Dice. I thought it was Voss. I really did. And he took me and Jim shopping, and we hung out with Dice for the day. We got Slurpees. And it was really awesome. And he wound up going, hey, give me your number. And I might have had a cell phone then, but I had a business card at my home number. I was like, here, I just handed it. And Jim didn't have a business card. So then Dice called me to open for him. And I think just because I happened to be the one who had the card, like, a month later he called me, and that was what started so many things. So yeah, I didn't mean to tell such a long story. I fucking, but that, yeah, he would have us go on stage, and it was fun, man.
I love the idea of you being a young guy with a business card.
Yeah.
Comedian, Jim Norton.
That's exactly what it's, yeah. Yes. Giver of douche chills would have been a better. I still have, it's funny, I didn't get photos for a long time. Everybody knows what a whore I am for pictures. But, no, I know, I've kind of kept it under my hat. Once in a while, I'll tweet a special one. Look, here's dog shit Maria Shriver stepped in. But I used to get autographs. And when I met Kinnison, I got him to sign a napkin. It was really cool. I met him one time. I met Richard Pryor one time, and I got him to sign my business. I would always get guys to sign my business card because I felt like it was a personal thing for them to sign the back, but a picture would have been better.
Yeah, right. When did you get this obsession with pictures?
It's funny. I think Florentine got me on it. I am a bit of an Ozzy. I'm biased for Ozzy Osbourne.
No.
Yeah, it's one of those things I've tried not to. I don't like to talk about it or keep it. And I had never met him. And we went to MTV. This guy Frank worked at MTV, and Ozzy was doing an interview. So he sneaks us in the back. And Ozzy's scent when he walks out. If you've ever been around Ozzy Osbourne, he literally is the best smelling man. Ozzy looks like he's going to smell like vomit and shit because you know who he is. He wears this British cologne and he smells fucking amazing. So he walks by us in the hallway. And I've never been that speechless, but I couldn't talk. And that smell, it was like a fucking, there's an aura to someone like that. And he went into the bathroom. I followed him into the bathroom. It was a whole fucking thing. And then he came out, and I'm like, can I have an autograph? He's like, I got to do a TV thing, man. And he walks away from me. So afterwards, we went into the back and got to actually talk to him. And I didn't know what to say. I was shaking. And he signed an autograph. And he's lovely. If you've ever met him, he's very nice to fans. And I got the autograph, and that was it. And Jim goes, get the picture. And Jim had a camera with him, and he's like, take the picture. I'm like, oh, all right. And I took a picture with Ozzy, and then I took his. And then I finally saw it. I'm like, wow, this is really me and Ozzy. And that started Florentine started the obsession with that dumb Ozzy picture.
Sure.
I could have just fist bumped him and fucking left him alone for the rest.
You'd be a healthy person today.
Oh, I'd be great. I'd probably be married, no erection difficulties. Women with vaginas only. That sent me down a really weird road. I don't know. I need a picture. I can't get one. All right.
It's all connected for you.
It somehow is, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know how. It's all just trying to, what did fucking, what did John Malkovich say? He was going to kill Clint Eastwood. When he was going to kill the president in The Line of Fire.
Oh, yeah.
He said, why do you do it? He said, to punctuate the dreariness. Sometimes that's the best answer I've ever heard to why do you just do irrational shit. Why do I do certain things? Because things are just and you want to just fucking punch through it. I'm not going to kill the president. But, if you're a young woman and you've got a cock. Why not just, kill any self-esteem I have? That was not a gender joke. That was a size joke.
But you were so, and it's odd to say this, you were like 10 years ahead of this transgender thing.
Yeah, or behind it, as it were. No, yeah. See, I was 10 years ahead publicly. I was 25 years ahead of it privately.
A friend of mine who saw one of your specials was trying to, and this is a guy who, doesn't know you, he lives down south, and he was trying to figure you out because you were doing those kind of jokes, and then your audience at the special looked more like, black T-shirt.
Sure.
It wasn't a downtown audience where that should have worked. You were doing it in front of these guys that would normally be against it. How did you get over with that material?
It's funny. It's like, I think that a lot of times the audience or the audience that comes to see me, they're very aggressive, typical, white guys fucking, but they're the same as I am. They're not different than me, or they're not different than other guys I know. So, I mean, they understand that. Like, how many guys look at Bailey J and go, oh, you know. It makes you question everything you thought you knew. You know what I mean? It's like seeing a ghost. You're like, oh my God, I've been wrong. So I don't know. I think because it's honest and you know, I mean, yeah, a lot of them are like maybe they don't agree with it or they don't like it or whatever. But I think if you're okay with it, they're okay with it as a crowd. Meaning, if you don't feel, I'm not embarrassed by it, other than the way I'm, you know, as a comedian I perform it. But I don't give I care if they laugh. I want them to laugh, but I don't care if they approve or if they agree. That's not my job. So it's like I think if people understand that you're giving them that, they tend to relax and just enjoy what you're giving them. If they think it's funny, they laugh. You know what I mean? As opposed, I'm not trying to force them to change who they are.
Sure.
I'm not preaching about their beliefs. I don't care if they're homophobes or racist. That's up to them.
I think, you know, there's a large majority of them that thinks that you're joking.
Yeah. Hopes is a better word. Because, you know, who wants to throw 8 CDs down the fucking dumpster? And, no, you know, I think they know. I mean, they know I'm kidding at one point. There's certain stuff, but after a while, it's like, Jesus, you know, how many times can you put on a Klan hood before people go like, all right, we get it.
Yeah. But the first time that you were open about that kind of stuff, were you nervous to take that to the stage? Or?
Yeah, I mean, in a way, yes, and in a way, no. It was almost like the stuff that always made the comedians laugh. Because comedians smell out bullshit. And again, that's the beauty of being in an environment like the Cellar, is that you have to be honest on some level with each other. Or if you come in with a phony personality,
right,
or you're the type of guy that does a bit in conversation, how you doing? Oh, my wife. Oh, you'll get iced by the other guys. Are you doing a bit? It's embarrassing to get called out for doing a bit when you're chatting. So you kind of, you learn to what makes the comedians laugh is to be honest and to be truthful and self-deprecating. So very early in my career, I was doing that and confessing and talking about hookers. And then it just started to be transgender, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's my process. But the first time I ever talked about it on stage was in 2003 in, Montreal. Jeff Singer, a guy who's a booker of the festival, had a show called Confessing It. And you would talk about something you had like never said. And I had talked about that, but I don't think I ever actually said it so I told 2 sex stories, and one of them, was about a girl who I fucked with no condom.
Her or you?
Well, what's good for the goose is good for the goose, Ron. Or are we ganders? I don't even know at this point. But, I did it without a rubber. But I didn't know 100%. You know what I mean? I kind of suspected, but I kind of, you know what I mean? It was one of those things, but I fucked behind a dumpster in Jersey City. But yeah, but I was like, I did and it was funny. I made it funny. You got to make it funny. You can't just, no, in this day and age, nobody really gives a fuck. My fans, or people, whether the fans are just familiar with me, I don't even assume they're, they know I've been talking about stuff for a long time. It doesn't shock people. Anyone who is shocked by it, it's fucking silly.
Right.
Like, it's not shock. In the age of the internet or ISIS videos, or the fact that you can just look at brutal car wrecks or people burned alive, all on the same wonderful site. This is nothing. So who gives a fuck? And plus, half the people that say shit to you are lying anyway. If not to themselves, then to you. It's just so it doesn't really concern me, and I think that's why a lot of the people are cool with it.
Yeah.
Because I think the fans have gotten a bad rap too. Like, I really do. They're really aggressive and they like brutal fucking humor. And they're like, I don't care if it's retarded people or burn victims. They'll laugh at any type of a joke if it's funny. But people think they're these asshole barbarians, and that's just not the truth. Because they might have turned on me for other stuff, but they didn't turn on me for that.
Right. So what other stuff did they turn on you for?
Probably the fact that I swallow. I think that's what I'm joking.
Always joking about that.
Always kidding. No, I mean, when they got mad at me for not leaving with Anthony, like that type of stuff. There were not all the fans, but there were a lot of people that got very pissed off at that. So that type of stuff maybe. Or stuff I've said about, a lot of people got really mad at me because of the stance I took when I said, I'm glad the NSA is spying on people, because I think they mistook why I said that.
Right.
Well, maybe I didn't make it clear enough. Might have been my fault. So whatever. They turn on you for certain things.
But that's the difference between doing radio and stand-up, is that when you do radio, you're talking about a lot more things than just your act. When you have an act, you can sit, you can work it out. But when you're doing radio, you could just say something one day that you have no idea. People might be taking the wrong way, or just, there's certain things that if you bring it up, you're going to lose half the audience.
Yeah, I mean, and I always try to explain it, because I think if you say something like, I'm happy the NSA is spying, it's not because I like the government. It's because I think that we're a nosy fucking culture, and it annoys me. It makes me sick about us, and we should live in a place where the NSA would be dragged out into the street and killed for doing that, and wouldn't do it. Mm-hmm. But we don't. We just tolerate it because that's who we are. So it was kind of a statement about, I hate how nosy we are, and I hate the fact that we fucking lynch people like Mel Gibson and Alec Baldwin and Donald Sterling for shit they said in private. But if you look into our private life, whoa, hey buddy, and that we should be as outraged by each other spying as we are by the government.
Right.
They're just us. You know what I mean? I'm not even saying that for any other reason. But that was kind of what I meant by it. And people think that I was just some shill whore of the government. It's like, no, that wasn't it at all. I find them repulsive. But yeah, I probably didn't explain it that way. I probably just said it angrily and went, and then just...
Yeah. But there's also that thing now, because of the internet, there's so many opinions out there. And you just wonder if there could have been a Sam Kinison if he was coming up today, or would they have just chopped his legs off for him long before he got a chance to get that act together?
It's a great question. They might have tried. I mean, they went after Sam pretty hard.
They did.
They hurt Dice too. The feminists hurt Dice. Because most of the feminists, and Colin Quinn made this point to me brilliantly, was that they didn't have people went after rap, but a lot of the feminists focused on Dice instead of going after rap, and they thought that was the target. And, he lost his 3-picture deal. My cousin Vinny was supposed to be his. He's talked about that.
Well, also, when it's rap, a lot of those feminists are thinking, well, that's just black women. You know what I mean? That's their culture, but when it was Dice, and I went back because when I did the first Unmasked with Dice, I watched a lot of the stuff when he was really huge, and it seemed a lot more gleeful to me than it did at the time. Right?
Yeah.
At the time, I remember thinking, this is fucking kind of weird.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The way, 18,000 people are just screaming out, hickory dickory dock.
Yeah.
Like a fucking bunch of lunatics, right? But when I went back and watched them, like, okay, I get it more now. It's just people, like, trying to take this time to just blow off steam.
Yeah, it was an event. It was a concert. It was like, most comedians you don't get to see in a concert. Now it becomes much more common.
Sure.
But when Andrew did it, it was before social media. It was before you know what I mean? It was a harder thing to do when he did it.
Yeah.
And I think it was a little bit more special because he did it just like word of mouth. He was selling
Right, that's true.
He would do a month in a club and sell 400 seats, a night, every night for the month, but just by word of mouth. I mean, he had that kind of fucking rise.
And when you were touring with him, it was like still doing arenas, or
no?
Was it
he was doing
after.
No, and it was a funny thing to watch because we were doing maybe 3,000 seats, 5,000 seats in Chicago. He still had a lot of ability to sell tickets, but he was always talking about the arenas and getting back into the arenas. And it was like, dude, do you not understand what a fucking great career you have? You're doing 3,000 seats. Like, yeah, okay, it's not 18,000, but god damn, just because you fucked Pam Anderson, you can't cry that you're fucking another hot girl who's just not Pam Anderson. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Be happy you fucked her, stupid.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I always wanted him to, now he's got the show and he's kicking back into gear. But it was like, dude, he had such a great career, I think, and didn't always realize how well he was actually doing.
I love that you just dated yourself by saying Pam Anderson.
Yes, I did. There's so many more socially relevant. All right, let me give it. Kylie Jenner 5 years ago.
Now, again, that's a perfect excuse of something that could be taken out of context. If someone just grabbed that part of it, you know,
they'd be welcome to it.
Yeah,
let them. Yeah, I joked about fucking a 13. Yeah, I did. Yeah. So what? Did you lynch Kevin Bacon and the Woodsman for playing a pedophile? No, go fuck yourself. Don't tell me I can't make fun of it. You can't, with stuff like that, all this outrageous shit. Yeah. You got to meet it with revulsion. You shouldn't meet it with like, no, what I was trying. Really, it's a disgusting fake thing people are doing, so they should be addressed the way people are when they're doing something disgusting and fake.
All right. So Jimmy has just made it okay for us all to laugh at the Woodsman now. So.
Oh, no. I was talking about jerking off to it. I wouldn't laugh at that movie. No. But I challenge you to watch it. If it doesn't bubble a little, well, you're a better man than me. It's funny, man. About pedophiles,
Go on.
Fucking Don Wickland's in the back going, oh, no. No, it's not that. No, it's funny. That's not my thing ever. It just doesn't, innocence doesn't turn me on at all, so I don't get it. And me and Russ Beneves, a comedian, were talking. I was talking about pedophiles. I was like, yeah, they should be fucking killed. And, and he goes, man, sometimes I'm lucky I don't have that demon. And I thought about that, like, that was such a smart way to look at it, like, fucking, thank God, like, as bad as I am, and I'm a pervert, I never got, that bug didn't bite me. I can't stand kids. Pedophiles shouldn't be jailed, they should be rewarded for tolerating these little fuckers. How do you do it?
The bouncy houses alone is
Oh, it's awful. Your fucking pocket knife opens, it pops. I don't get it. But I think, it's funny, because I've been talking on stage a little bit about, Charlie Sheen, obviously, and Jared from Subway and Cosby and all these people. And it's almost like, are they really people that were good people that sexual addiction just took them to this horrible, and I'm not excusing, Jared belongs in jail. If Charlie fucked women and didn't tell them he had HIV and he knew it, he should be in jail. But it's like, are these just decent people who become these fucking horrible monsters because they're addicted, man? I'm like, oof, thank fucking God it didn't get that bad. Like I know where my line is and my lane is, and it's, it's expensive. But it's consensual and it's adult. You know what I mean? Like it's look at fucking Africa Bambaataa. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna say I never thought of him. He would do that. I never thought I'd be thinking of Africa Bambaataa again. But I'm amazed by how many people. That's why I don't let people who criticize whatever get to me, because everyone has so much dirt under their fingernails. Some have true dirt, and some are just a little sneaky. So you can't really believe that people are sitting there. That fucking throne, you can't buy it.
Right.
I probably could have said that smarter, and I knew I didn't have a really great point, so I crossed my arms.
That was great. When you cross your arms, I got it. Finally.
Oh, my God. He means business. I think the mask is coming off. This guy's good.
You're free to cry now, if you need to. Well, but you always bring up prostitutes, but that's not your...
Yeah, it has become a bit of a theme.
But you are in relationships from at least time to time.
Yeah, I want a relationship at this point. I don't fuck prostitutes. I joke about it, but I don't have women, come over and fuck them. It's just too much after a while. But after you start to, the risks become greater and greater and greater. People want you to get them pregnant. People, I don't fuck drunk girls. I don't fuck drunk girls ever. It scares me. It's predatory, and that whole dirty for me is fucking look you in the eye and go, my ex had a bigger dick. Ooh. That hurt.
Yeah. Again, is that your ex or hers?
It's amazing how I just keep backing into these. But for me, dirty is a conscious, like, a focused. It's always the mentality. So if someone's incapacitated, fucking loaded, it doesn't turn me on. It just feels weak and like it does nothing for me. But it's also, it's how you get in trouble too. So I've avoided a lot of trouble on the road. Believe it or not, even though I've done all these stupid things, I've never knocked anybody up. I've never fucking forced anybody to do anything. Again, you have to know what your lane is and stay in it. But I kind of want a girlfriend at this point. Like, not one in particular, but I would like to be in one. A relationship, because I'm not lonely. I mean, I got a lot of friends, but I miss the familiarity. Like, I see Bobby and his wife, Dawn, and they have a son, and I don't necessarily want a kid at this point, but the idea of just having that person that you watch Game of Thrones with, you talk about how you, that fucking guy hit on you and I didn't do anything, but I could kick his ass. You point to Peter Dinklage. Someone like that, someone familiar.
Yeah, but you've lived alone for so long, you get stuck in you create a life, because you're very adamant about your schedule. I mean, you do stand-up every night. You're in doing radio in the morning.
Yeah.
You have your workout time, all that kind of stuff. That kind of becomes your life at that point.
Yeah, and it's really hard. Like, if I have someone come and stay for a day or two, by the second day I notice it. And it's not that I don't like them there. I have to adjust to another person. Like, not that I want to do anything. Mm-hmm. You can only shit in a diner so many times. Fucking, that's what I miss about a relationship, is being able to shit and then laugh as my girlfriend walks in the bathroom after me. That's what I miss.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Like my ex-girlfriend.
You got me crying now.
My fucking ex one time, I took a rotten one, and she fucking goes, I was almost fucking late for work because of your shit smell. Because she couldn't go in and brush her teeth. I was so happy.
Yeah.
But I miss traveling with somebody. Like,
Sure.
If I have to go to LA for something, it would be kind of cool to go with someone, have a girl come and, just hang out. And that's the shit I miss.
Right.
Just the friendship.
Yeah. Well, that's never going to happen.
No, I know. You got that right. It's funny. No, you don't have to feel bad. I've had this conversation in the mirror, and that's always the conclusion we come to.
But to me, it's the same way if he would told me he was going to make the NBA one day. Someone has to point out to you, it's too fucking late.
Oh, God, he's fucking... I really am dreaming like I'm 22 again. Oh, I'm finished. I'm never going to have one. You're right.
Yeah.
It could be worse.
Well, the last time, we did the Unmasked thing, it was with O&A, and it was like a celebration. It was that 20 years.
Oh, my God. I forgot about that.
Yeah, it was everybody...
Oh, yeah.
It was like a wonderful, wonderful day. And then 2 weeks later, we found out they were both lying about everything that they told us.
Yeah. And, boy, the fans got mad at the stepson, didn't they?
But we all kind of had to make that adjustment. Every comedian who did the show,
Sure.
Everybody that was friends with him, worked with him. But you were the arrow point of that whole thing.
Well, it's funny. Like, for me, it wasn't news. Like, you know what I mean? Like, for the rest of the people, it was news. But I had functioned in that environment for so long. I kind of knew when they were getting along and when they weren't. But it's pretty amazing. People, they were being fake. But, part of it was they did a show for years, probably beyond where they would have. If they had just the first time they said, fuck you, you know what I mean? So, it stinks. I still miss the old days and the way it was, very much. But, I know, you're right. She said we all do, and you're right. It's one of those things where the fans have gone crazy, and it's a tremendous loss. But I feel it too. I feel it. What do you think? I don't feel it? Miss joking with Anthony? Of course I do. And it's not, people shit on Opie, it's all Opie, but it's not, you know what I mean? It was a marriage, and it's easy to blame one fucking guy, it was him, but it wasn't just him. You know what I mean? It was I watched it. I was there. So when I hear people, I don't care if people think Anthony's a fucking a creep and they hate him, or they fucking think Opie's think they hate him or they hate me. That's cool. But it's when they start to get into, well, this is what was going on. It's like, I fucking sat there for 4 hours a day and watched what was going on. I'm telling you, you're wrong. It wasn't just one guy's fault.
Well, we were talking about a relationship and a marriage, and weirdly, doing radio together, two people sitting in a fucking box 4 hours a day is more intense than anything you go through in a marriage, because you could walk in the other room or you could go back and drink or whatever the hell you do. But when you're in that thing, the stress is always there, even when it sounds great.
Yeah, but I noticed this. People asked me the last time, Opie and I had an argument on the air a while ago, and it was a long one. It was a 90-minute.
Yeah. Because my phone started, are you listening to this?
Yeah.
It's happening again!
Yes. And that was me and Ope separately texting him.
Who was that text meant for, though?
But the people did you guys ever talk that over? What happened was the next day, when you see each other, you have to go on the radio together. So whatever you talk, you don't look at, but it's a weird thing because other jobs, whatever you guys do for a living, you fight with your boss or you fight with someone, you can avoid them and, maybe see them and getting coffee. Right. You don't have to collaborate creatively with them, with people listening. So you immediately have to start communicating in one way or another. It doesn't mean you're going to be friends. Eventually it smoothed over and it was fine. But you just begin okay, we are in this situation where we have to, we're not stupid. It's our job. When you get paid a lot of money to fucking do an easy job. It's a relatively easy job. So I don't want to fuck it up.
But it is the same. Everybody who's ever been on a long distance car trip, it's like that, where you put up with each other for a while, and then finally, just about the time you hit Florida, you're just like fucking pulling off the road.
Yeah,
you motherfucker, get out.
Yeah,
and that's what it fucking feels like.
And it really sucks because you left from Georgia.
But it probably would be healthier if you did it every state,
Yeah.
But people try to make it, a pleasant situation. So right now, Ant is on vacation.
Yes.
Getting a tan.
Yes, he is.
Yeah. But you and I went and did that kind of farewell show with him, which was a very strange thing too, to see him going through that transition.
Yeah, well, he and I have always talked. I mean, we in touch several times a week since he's left. I mean, I've never stopped talking to Anthony. And we went and had dinner after the whole last incident where he had the thing with Danny. He and I went to dinner a while later. Because it's like he's my friend and I love him, but when you're watching your friend, no matter how much you love somebody, when you're watching them self-destruct, it's hard to be around. And I can't rescue people and I can't save people. I wish I could. There's a lot of people I would have stepped in for, and a lot of people I wanted to get sober and I wanted to fix, but I can't.
Right.
And we both understand the power we have and the power we don't, So he and I went to dinner, we were just talking about it, and talking about race and all that stuff. And it was like, that's what I've wanted to hear from Ant for so long. I felt good for him. Like, I knew this is a month before he went to rehab, but he told me he was going to do it. And I knew he meant it. And I knew that he wasn't bullshitting, or if he was just doing a brilliant job of it, and he got over on me. But we were just talking about the rants and just the whole thing, man. And he just seemed like a guy who was every time there's been an issue, it's been because of this, of drinking. And I was just happy to see him come to that place, So I hope it works for him, because not just as a radio guy, but it's like. I worked with him for 10 years. We were close for 10.
Right.
More than that, but I mean the last decade. So I'm concerned with my friend too.
Yeah, and also, because of but also a lot of people.
What am I gonna say?
Yeah, but a lot of people, for you to stay sober, for anybody to stay sober, you have to be available to people at that exact moment. when they need you, a lot of people get mad about that. And you go, don't you remember all the other things? You're like, yeah, I'm a fucking dick too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's when you support people, probably when they're not doing great.
Yeah, it's easy to support him when he's doing great, but again, when you're friends with somebody, when somebody reaches out for help, you know, or in his own way, I'm responsible for that. Like to be there and you know, it's like I've been given a really good life, and I'm really lucky, and he was a big part of it, and he still is. So it's like if he, you know. You got to help them. You have to. It's an obligation, and it's more important to me than my job even. And it's not because I'm some maverick who says fuck serious. I love working inside. I really do. They're okay with me. They let me do what I want. They let me travel and do my gig. But that to me is I wouldn't be a comic if I was doing. I would have fucking threw myself in front of a train years ago.
You actually believe that about yourself?
Yeah, and it's not melodrama. You know, a lot of guys are dramatic when they quit drinking. For me, I would have drunk, drove, and killed somebody. Or killed myself, or I would have just committed suicide. You know, that would have happened so many years ago. There never would have been any of this stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It would have been a non-event. You know, it would have just been one more. You know, it wouldn't have been. But that's what it would have been. So I'm very realistic about that.
But if you did it now, front page headlines.
Yeah, maybe on smaller websites. Esquire. You know? That's a big site, but you know. Oh my God, the buzz on Grindr. Oh, there'd be tears with women tucking all over the country. Daddy put me through college.
Actually, and we'll move on now. You had a pretty exciting night last night. You shot a pilot, right?
I did, yeah. And boy, did Chip Chipperson want to just come out right there. Yeah, it was the first one I did for IFC. I'm really happy with how it came out. It was a talk show, and they wanted me to do a talk show for them. And I did two. I shot two over the course of one night, and IFC loved it. And we gave them exactly what they wanted, and they approved all the bits. And then it went to AMC, and they didn't pick up anything that they shot this year for IFC. And they're like, "We like him, and here's what we would like to do with him. We would like to do an opinion-based thing." Where it's like 30 minutes on the same show. They're like, there's a million white guys with talk shows. How do you get people to watch another fucking talk? And they weren't, it's like weird. I didn't want to hear that, but I was like I knew they were right. So the thing I'm doing is kind of an opinion-based thing where I take one subject and break it down, hopefully more than once. So we did white privilege this week, because it's not an easy subject to be funny about. But I think we pulled it off.
Yeah.
I hope we did.
Well, I'm sure Ant will disagree with you, but that's.
Oh yeah. Are you kidding me? He is white privilege. Fucking guy drove down the LIE doing 200 with a cannon on the roof.
Complaining about minorities the whole way.
Yeah. I know. Of course, the road isn't good. It's blacktop. You know, all right.
So the hope is to do this show once a week?
Again, yeah, I would love to, sure. I feel good about it, and I'm very harsh on myself, and I'm always think what I do is fucking, I have a problem with it, I'm not happy with it, I don't want to promote it. But this one I felt good about, like I was like, okay, man, I think we were going to do, the writers were really funny. We had, Kurt Metzger wrote, Bonnie McFarlane was a writer, this guy Tom Johnson, Ian Edwards, and this guy, dude Nick Mullen, who's a younger comic, and a psychopath, but a really fucking smart, funny guy. So the writers were awesome.
Is Metzger writing everything on the East Coast these days, though?
He's just, he's a weird, like, you won't hear from him for 12 hours. You know, he's always late. You know what I mean? He's always frazzled, smoking his fucking stupid electronic cigarette with his Garfield eyes. He's a real creeper. But he's very prolific.
Oh, nice.
You know, and he writes well for me. Like, a lot of guys write for me and they try to write too dirty. Like, they try to write stuff like, you know what I mean? And then I fucked a baby and threw it in front of a butt. And I'm like, this is a network show. Like, save that for my documentary. But yeah, they write too dirty, and Kurt's dirty, but I think he's really funny dirty, and he's honest dirty. I love how he writes. And even once in a while he'll write something like, no, I can't. But like when even jokes you don't use, you understand that's the tone I like. He writes in a great, he's very harsh. He throws big fucking, punches when he writes. He's really good. So he's a guy that people use.
And you did this Indiegogo thing for Chip, right?
I did, yeah. Oh, what a success. But, it was, the thing with the Indiegogo thing, it was, we asked for $200,000. I didn't want to ask for $200,000 at all. There was a company you go to, Indiegogo. They were very nice. They were very honest. Nobody was trying to be shitty. And I met this guy and he runs the page. He starts the page. He goes, I think he's done big campaigns. You should ask for $200,000 because, man, a lot of times you have to pay out the shipments and the fucking merchandise that you're promising people. And he goes, I can cut into a third of your money. So I'm like, all right, I could probably do the whole project for about 100. But if I get extra money after I pay everything and I have like an extra 40,000 or 50, I'll fucking upgrade the animation or I'll do an extra episode. It was never going to go in my pocket. Mm-hmm. People think I was going to steal it. So we wound up getting 60 grand, which I was literally fine with. I mean, the fact is, people don't want to fund something. Like, do it yourself if you fucking believe in it. So they gave me 60 grand. I have to pay out a lot of the perks, which my manager is organizing all of that. There's hundreds of people. And so all that stuff will be sent out. I'll probably have 40 left, and I'll make as many episodes as I can. But people had some good criticism of it. Some of it was just people being dicks, but some of it was right. Like, I see Chip. Anyone who thought that didn't represent Chip, you have to realize that represented Chip better than anything you've ever seen. But you don't see Chip like that. I forget that people see him different. I live this fucking asshole. Like, that's the world and that's it, and people blame my ex Jen, like, oh, she fucked it up. Chip wouldn't exist this long without. Do you understand the amount of text messages she gets from Chip? I'll be having a real conversation with her, and I'll just write her. She'll be like, oh, that was really funny. And then she'll just get, what I say. And she writes back, fucking Chip, stop hijacking the compliment. She talks to him. Like the fact that Chip's a compulsive liar, that came from him. So there's so many things. But I listen to people because the people who see it from the outside see it different than me. And a lot of them said that they didn't like Chip being in that scripted sense. And I understood that. Because when I saw Borat, I didn't like the movie. And it wasn't that it wasn't good. It made $100 million. But I liked Borat when I knew it was unscripted, when I knew it was totally free. Mm-hmm. And even though a lot of Borat was unscripted, I felt like the movie I just didn't like that there was a story. There was no way he could have fixed that to make me happy because the basic core of it, I wanted different. So if that's the issue with certain people, they'll never. But I may have figured out a way to incorporate some outside stuff with, Sam's the guy I want to sit down and talk to because Sam interacts with Chip very well. I have not given up on the animation.
Yeah. By the way, I don't know which one is more annoying.
Fuck yeah, he's a piece of garbage. You ever hear his show? It's like listening to fucking, like lights get hot or something. Yeah. I love, by the way, people will yell for me to do Chip on stage, and I do him on stage, and I do fucking Kirk and Uncle Paul. And it's so funny when I do Chip, and a lot of times, like, I know they're expecting something good, and he'll be like fucking, like it's literally, he'll look at the hat, NY, New York, what do you think you're a state? And it's like, wow, he really stinks. Yeah, he does. He's not an anti-hero like Alex in Clockwork Orange. He's an unfunny bag of shit who ruins everything. So I want to capture what makes people like him. So I really did read a lot of the comments on Facebook and email and stuff, and I didn't agree with all of them, but I was open to it because people who love Chip and were harsh about it see him in a way that I don't, so I want to kind of figure out what that is. But that's still happening. I still want to do it. Because I'm never going to not do dumb Chip. And if I do more episodes and it goes nowhere, I already have an option to sell it. There's somebody who wants to do it. I just don't know if I want to do it where this person wants me to do it. I may just want to do it on the internet, so they can't tell me don't do Uncle Paul. And Jelly, the kid, nobody knew who the kid was, but I do Jelly as much as I do Chip when I'm chatting with Jen, and Uncle Paul always wants to molest Jelly. And literally, she'll be like, Jim, fucking stop. Like, it's not funny to her. Like, I'll say it'll be like, Jelly will write like child, like letters to her. Like, Uncle Paul, told me to go with his friend to the hotel, and she gets so fucking mad that Uncle Paul has prostituted this 5-year-old who doesn't exist.
This is like 10 times weirder than you blowing hookers.
Yeah, well, those things aren't mutually exclusive, Ron.
So, the company that you kind of turned down, Pixar, you really, but this will just be you.
No, it wasn't Pixar. See how Chip has no irony, just ruins the moment?
Yeah. But this will just be you releasing this on the internet yourself.
Yeah, basically like I've done everything else for 26 years, just tossing a Frisbee into indifference. Yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do with it. But either way, it's like I'm okay. I like the act I'm doing now. I'm creatively, I hate to say creatively, but it's like I'm very fucking busy. And it's like I probably had the busiest 2 months I've had my entire career in this last couple of months between the getting ready to move and fucking doing the Chip animation and getting ready to shoot another special. It's going well. And I still find ways to be depressed about it, miserable and self-hating, but it's irrational. Like, life is very good.
Yeah, I didn't even notice that with you because Louis C.K. and Amy Schumer are doing so great. So I had no... So you've been doing stuff too. That's great, Jimmy. That's great.
Yeah, but Louis, like... I mean, who the fuck wants to deal with 17,000 people at night?
It's too much.
Oh, God, does he have a good career. But no, it's funny. When you look at those guys, those are the relative comparisons. It's easier to feel shitty. But I feel really, I just feel great about where things, like, and I'm not a guy good at taking lemons and making lemons. I'm really not. I'm good at taking lemons and squeeze them into the cut on my dick. I'm not pick myself up by my bootstraps. I'm wallowing it, motherfucker. That's the guy. But when I'm logical and I look at it, and I look at a lot of the guys I started with, the majority of them have stopped doing comedy, or they never. It's funny. Weird things snap you into it. Colin said something when he did the keynote address in Montreal a couple of years ago. I think it's something I'm paraphrasing, but it's something that I wish I was still grateful that I make a living doing this. Like, if you would, I forgot how important that was at one point, just to be being a comedian. And it's all I ever wanted to do. It's the only dream I ever had was to be a comic. And I got it, and I make a good living at it, and I have fun doing it, and yet I still find a reason to fucking snivel. And it's just like, shut the fuck up, you ungrateful twat. Like, I get really mad at myself for being so ungrateful when I've been given so much, And I work for it, but it doesn't matter. A lot of guys work for it and nothing happens. A lot of it's good luck too,
Sure.
So it's like sometimes you got to remind yourself, like when new guys come up to me and they're like, dude, I'm 35 and I always wanted to do it. I'm just like, just do it. Just fucking try it. I always encourage new guys, and I'm always heartbroken by guys who started and then quit. Because I got married, I didn't want to do it anymore, but I'm coming back now 15 years later. Not that getting married was wrong for them, but the fact that I feel like they gave up on their dream. And that one makes me very grateful that I didn't do that. Like, I've done a lot of shit wrong, but that's one thing I didn't do wrong.
Right.
It's like you look at that like, all right.
Right, but at the same time, that's
arenas, yeah.
Arenas. But they also have a personal life that you were talking about earlier that you actually gave up for this.
I did, but the advice show straightens me out on that one when they call in, my wife don't want to fuck me. You know, so I hear a lot of bad stuff too.
Yeah.
You know, so I don't look at married couples and go, "Oh, you lucky dogs." You know, I'm just like, it'd be kind of nice to be in a relationship. You know, I'm not obsessed with it because I hear so many bad things happen. And how do you not cheat with fucking Tinder and Facebook and Twitter and all these ways of connecting and communicating and hooking up with people? It's very difficult to not lose focus on the person you're with.
Right.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
At least that's what every girl I fuck tells me.
Well, we got to wrap this up, but it was really a lot of fun to.
Thank you for
just
having
sitting
me.
down and talking to you again, man.
Yeah, I loved it. I forgot we did the one with O&A too. I thought we hadn't done it since 2007.
Yeah, we did the. Oh yeah, you're always good with numbers. That's great.
Yeah.
I always forget that.
I should be better with them considering how much they come into play in my life. You said 250.
Well, I'm gonna give you something that you brought up. October. Have you decided? Do you know?
I don't know. Sirius contacted my agent to talk, but I just don't know. I'm not a good negotiator. There's something else I'm going to do, which hasn't been announced yet. It's unrelated to Opie and Anthony. It's not interfering with Opie and Anthony either, or as people. But I don't know what I'm going to do with Sirius. I mean, I may stay, but they haven't come with anything, so I don't know. Part of me thinks they want me to go. I'm paranoid about that shit.
Sure. So,
no, I'm not saying. I don't mean like that. I'm always saying my own thoughts. You know?
Yeah. Well, your thoughts and also management.
Yeah. Please. they look at the money. They'll say like the fans will get over it. They're not going to cancel. We still have hits one. I've never been delusional about my power in the business.
Yeah, that's true, right? No one should be.
No, when I say I'm going to walk, people always let me.
Well, it's time to walk now. Jim Norton, everybody. Let him in. Thank you.